All right, so hey, Ed here. At Journey Talk, we're referring to 2022 as the year of meeting unlikely people. It's a chance to maybe get intentional about expanding our people universes. So today, we have the pleasure of meeting and chatting for a brief while with Millie, who is in Miami, Florida. Hey, Millie, how are you today?
Hi, Ed. So nice to be with you. I just see on the back, Dream On.
I'm not sure if it was the song or...
Let's dream on together. Yeah.
So let's dream on together. Well, let's go right there, Millie. What are you dreaming of?
To accomplish what I need to accomplish in this lifetime, to be in service and in response to human suffering in any way that it means. And most of the time for me has been to be present and listen carefully to people. And so my dream is that I can just work for myself, Ed. I cannot do the work for anyone else. So by the end of my life, I want to say, Millie, you did everything you felt right for you at that moment. And of course, making sure that whatever I need to do as a mother, because my kids are everything for me, I did it. That's really my dream. And then dream about whatever happened after, because I think nothing is finished. Yeah.
What is something about you that would surprise people?
I have a smile because, as much as, we're very complex. You may be someone today, this is who you see and what I'm saying and my story that I'm telling to myself and I'm telling you, but there's so many layers. Maybe it would be interesting to see where I'm coming from. That, it start with Inquisition in Spain, being kicked out from Spain, going to Greece, then Turkey, then having my great-grandparents from Egypt. Egypt moved to Argentina. Argentina go back to Egypt, where both of my parents are born. And moving to Switzerland, where I'm born. So the journey is interesting. So now the part which is fun about that is that we have this Middle Eastern flavor in our family. And it came straight back to my two sisters in Switzerland. And when we see each other, it reminds us how much living, which food, good food and taste and music and dance, our, I would say sensuality, not sexuality, sensuality that come from these countries, the spices, the culture, the family, the being together, which it's part of me too. So there is this very disciplined way of life that I'm having today because I learn, but at the end of the day, this is part of me and you don't really change people, right? The more I go around, the more I come back. So it's also interesting for me to share that with you, to realize that we are a mixture of everything,
When you think back through that journey, and maybe think back to a time when you were maybe even in your formative years, whenever those are, I know we're still forming, but was there an event or a thing that happened that really changed you? And to this day, it's part of, who you are and your DNA and how and why you make choices?
There is a painful event happen. Painful, relatively, but I know that when we used to be in Switzerland, my father, he was a very hard worker in textile. He was working with China. When he left Egypt, they left everything behind and they have to restart everything in Switzerland. And when he started with his brother, everything again, he also lost everything again 10 years later. And so us, we had a very good life. I was blessed, well, education and everything. My father and my mother gave us anything and everything. So I've been blessed for that. But the blessing came when we lost everything. Because from a huge house, overseeing the lake of Geneva, my mother, beautiful woman, my father, handsome man, clever, always opening their doors to everyone in Lausanne, in Switzerland. You can ask today, they're still alive, but your dad and your mom and your invitation and the food you were serving and your mom, how much she cooked. And suddenly nothing, Ed. And we had to move. We were 3 sisters and it was okay. It's not that we didn't have a shelter, but the suffering of my father not being able to provide to his family, and the suffering of my mom, although my mom, she used to work in a kibbutz. You know what is a kibbutz in Israel?
Absolutely.
In the farm, to pay her own study because she lost her father when she was 3. So there is a lot of let's say my parents suffered, but they knew how to come back up. But me as a kid, I didn't know. I didn't have that resilience. I didn't have that bounce back. So that's why I said it was a blessing for me, because yes, we're born in that, but we're not staying in that. Hey, Millie, wake up. And so at that moment, I said, okay, it's time for me to realize, wow, happiness is not the money. Oh no. Happiness is what I'm going to find through my journey, every moment. And I can talk like that right now. At that moment, I didn't talk like that, but you wake me up.
I don't know if you've read any of Daniel Pink's work.
No.
Okay, so he wrote a book, I think it was called Drive, about motivation. He's written a few books, but this latest book is about regret. He says that we often like to say, oh, I have no regrets as we go about our lives. And he's like, no, that's the wrong approach. Regret is actually something that's really useful to us. It makes me think about your experience and your journey. Is there any part of it that you would want a chance to do over? Let me take another shot at that.
I go with regret because of resistance, not wanting to hear my scary voice because I was scared. And I was raised in a place where there were risk adverse, my parents, for us. So even a sleepover at a friend, we couldn't do. They all come in our home, it's safe. So this adventurous, curiosity, traveling, all of that never really happened. So the regret of not listening a little bit more carefully to that scary voice, that would probably open me a lot of doors. Even it was, when you talk about adventure, it doesn't need to be big. For me, an adventure would be just to take the bus by myself. Just to walk alone at night by myself. That was scary. Never happened. So regret not trusting that voice. But again, he wouldn't let me where I am today, probably.
How do you see your work in being in the world as you are, and to use the Steve Jobs, making a dent in the universe, is his thing, making a dent into the challenges we seem to be having with one another?
When you talk to me, I feel a lot of sadness. Because yes, this world is where we're living at today is, wow, challenging. To answer your question, I want to come back to the fact that Millie is just that and nothing. Grain of sand on the beach, right? But I'm trying to polishing that grain of sand. I'm trying to make it shine. Through my work, exploring self-exploration and the coaching that I use as the umbrella to open myself to others, I'm doing the work every day to be able to offer people this safe place where, as you said, it's not easy connecting with people. And I hear them coming to me. Oh, no, I don't have time for that. Oh, no. Oh, no. There's so much fear about everything. And just at the end of the day, come back to our own relationship with ourselves. When you said it's hard to connect to other people, yes, but it's even harder to connect to ourselves. So when we start to understand, wow, if I have the courage to go through that self-exploration, like you decided to go 6 months on your journey, you were alone, you on the road, right? So that moment, that journey teach you who you are, because there's so much more, because you choose to make a stop in your life and look out of the box and say, wow, nature, connection, why are we stuck in us? Why we keep suffering with the same stuff? Because believe me, Ed, I'm not saying that I'm understanding. I'm not. And maybe I'm never going to understand because it's greater than us. But I get closer each time. And that gave me the chance to be able to connect deeply with people if they want to, because it's still, I'm not going to change them. It's up to them to do the work, right?
What is that value of self-reflection, if that's the right phrase to it? And where would someone start if it's not a practice they're used to, or if it sounds selfish?
Wake up in the morning and acknowledge your first breath, and say, thank you, I'm alive. That's where the journey starts. I'm alive. Whatever happened in your life, you're still breathing. Breath is number 1. Water is number 2. Food is number 3. But breath is number 1. Without breath, we don't live. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Let me share. So I wake up in the morning and I just breathe every morning. I say, thank you, God. You thank you, nature, whatever you want. And I'm breathing and I let arise whatever arises at that moment. I'm not trying to go in my thinking mind, just let arise whatever, my dreams, whatever happened. And then I love to stretch my body. So I stretch my body maybe 5 minutes and then I sit. Can be 10 minutes, can be 5 minutes, can be 1 hour, can be 2. But I just sit and respect. So to your question, I would say my motivation every day, because it's not easy, and it's certainly not easier for certain people than others. I don't know why I have homeless people come in my head, because here in Miami, the hood is right there. And I'm living in an apartment, beautiful apartment. But I can tell you one thing. I'm thinking about respect. That's what I'm thinking about. Of course, love is always there, but we don't even know what does it mean love. Except when we talk about love, we have some, butterfly and happiness and joy inside of us and feeling of openness. But respect is respecting your breath. Respect that even if you're on the street today, how can you do with that? What can you do right now to make your life a little bit better? I have no answer because I was never in the street. But why I'm talking to you about that? Because the other day I was talking with someone and I say, it's a choice to be in the street. And he said, no, it's not. And I start to say, yes, it's a choice. You can go and start to move and do, what needs to be done. And he said, no. And he looked at me and said, I was homeless. And I know what I'm talking about, Millie. And so suddenly I said, we don't know anything until we experiment. And my experience, we may have exactly the same life. My experience is not the same than you, Ed. So to come back to your question, I would say, wake up in the morning, experiment your breath. Start to create that relationship of love with your breath. Imagine it's someone you don't know and you just discover for the first time. And get closer and closer and closer and closer. And there's two words that I keep repeating to myself. Be gentle and softening the muscles, and gentle. Even during the day when you talk, right speech, right thoughts. Keep yourself in a very spacious way. No judgment, no attachment.
What brings you the most joy right now?
Every time that I take things lightly, can be any, even, my practice, or reunion of family, right? It's fun, right? But it can turn to be very, even if I have a lot of joy coming up, my family, my boys are coming back from college, we're going to be together. That's where it's take me. It's like, boom, my challenge. Wow, now I can prove, this is the material where I can show what I did with my practice. Can I be there and be okay and enjoy? And so I would say to your answer, keep myself curious and playful brings me a lot of joy, because I can experiment every single moment of my life with the up and down of the emotion of my husband, of me, of my sister, of my father, with more another view, but still being able to be curious, with playfulness, with always a little smile.
As I was listening to you, I was also thinking about all the places you've lived and you've been. You have that sort of global awareness, and I'm curious, if that was a painting, what would the painting look like?
That's beautiful said. Yeah, great question, Ed. I think the water is the common denominator. That Egypt with my parents on the beach, talking to me about that. Switzerland with a beautiful lake and mountains, but water always has been very attractive for me. Not because I love to swim in the water, because it's healing, because just the sound of the water, the water element is also a lot related to the second chakra and the groundness and relationship and power. So all of that is just like, and Miami is the water again. I said to my husband, I need to see the ocean. I need to see it, because I'm so used to see it. That's where I keep dreaming when I was young, is looking at the lake and the sky and say, wow.
Are people wherever you go? Could you pluck someone out of Switzerland, and aside maybe from language and things like that, same as the person you meet outside today?
People are people, and why we need to define that? Let's open ourselves. Let's not categorize. Let's not tag anything. It said the Zen, they said, fresh eyes, beginner's mind. That's powerful. I love that. Switzerland, it's a beautiful postcard, So everything is regulation, the country, the people, the rules, the streets are impeccable, although it's changing now, And then suddenly you come in Miami with this multicultural, aspect of, and it's, I think that's probably the word I would end up with. It's flexibility and adaptation. I think if you're able to adapt in your life, you may have less suffering. And in order to adapt, you have to get to know yourself. Because if you don't know who you are, how are you going to adapt?
What have we missed?
I didn't miss. I think you didn't miss anything. Or even if you miss, I don't care, because I realized being here with you, give me whatever time it was, time to listen to my narrative, to update myself, to share maybe with your auditors, if there is anything that I may help them in a way or not, or maybe even not, and create more curiosity about it. It just, you allow me to listen to myself. So thank you for that. And the journey is a journey, and I feel like saying, you know, the story I'm telling you today may change in 1 month if I choose to, right? That's the beauty of it. So I love your concept about listening to people's story, their journey, because we may be attached to that journey, but we don't know what is made us for us tomorrow. But it allow me, for example, now to dream maybe, right? The dream on that we go on that talk together. And I'm really thankful for that. So thank you, Ed.